Hello parents, I am going to go over our review that we did today in class and just kind of think out loud as I complete the problems. I am at home, so you might hear my son or some toys going on in the background, and I'm recording it by myself, so forgive me if it's shaky, but here we go. The first problem is just kind of in our first lesson, solving this using the place value chart. So the first step would be to place the number in the place value chart. And students know that the multiplication tells you that we're going to shift the numbers to the left, and we're going to shift them 2 times because there are 2 zeros. So we'll take this 4 and we'll go over 1, 2. So the 4 would go here, the 2 and the 3. The decimal does stay in the same spot, so the answer would be 423. If they want to put a decimal at the end, they can. Some students are electing, rather than doing the arrows, they're trying to jump. That's fine as well. So I'll demonstrate the jump here with this 3. If they wanted to jump twice, it would look like this. 1, 2. That works fine. I'm not picky as long as they understand the concept behind the digit shifting. This second example, we're going to do the same thing. Place this first number in the place value chart. Since it's division, we're shifting to the right, and we're shifting 1, 2, 3 times. So we have 1, 2, 3, so the 4, the 8, and then the 6. The decimal's in the same spot. So to make sure that those digits don't shift, we're going to add our 0. So our answer would be just like that. Our next problem here, it's the same idea, but rather than doing it with this whole number, we're going to express it with an exponent. So we'll put this number right here into our place value chart. Multiplication means we go to the left, and since the exponent is a 2, that means we're shifting twice, because 10 times 10 is 100. So just like up here we shifted twice, here we're shifting twice. So here we go, 1, 2. The 8 is now here, the 3, the 7. Our decimal stays in the same spot, and because we have a gap here, we need to put a 0. We're going to plug in this number here to our place value chart. Division means we go to the right, and we're going to go 3 times. 1, 2, 3. And here is our answer. Son, I'm right here, baby. Daddy's outside. He'll be right back. Sorry for that interruption. Here's my son walking around. Okay. Back to our review. This concept seems to confuse some students, but today, after today's lesson, I think that they got the general gist of it. We're describing the relationship between these two numbers. So if we have, okay, sorry about that interruption. He is all set, so we're going to continue on. So when we have a sentence that says 9 and 23/100ths is blank as large as 923, that means we're comparing this number to this one. So this would be like our original number. And if most kids will see that 9 and 23/100ths is much smaller than 923, so what goes in this blank right here is going to be in fraction form. So I told them, if you know what's going to go in fraction form, go ahead and set that up. You know that underneath it, it's either going to be 1/10, 100th, or 1,000th. So just set it up like that. And now we're going to use our place value chart to figure out how many times did we shift. Well, our 9 was here, and it went over here. So if we look, it is 1, 2 jumps, 2 shifts, so it's going to have 2 zeros. So 9 and 23/100ths is 100th as large as 923. If we look at this second statement here, 923 is blank times as large as 9 and 23/100ths. So we're comparing this number to this one. So basically we started here and then this happened. So we want to know, what did we multiply by to make that change? So since we know that this number is larger, this is going to be a whole number. So I told them, go ahead and set it up. We just need to figure out how many zeros. So we'll refer to our chart as well. Again, we were here and we ended up here. So we did 1, 2, which means we are going to have 1, 2. Now we're going to go ahead and move on to lesson 4. I have just one review problem for this one. Kids did pretty well. And this is metric conversions. So we're going from kilometers to meters. So the very first thing kids need to determine, are we going from large to small, or are we going from small to large? So on the King Henry chart, King Henry doesn't usually drink chocolate milk, kilo, hecto, deca, unit, deci, centi, milli. So if they know that this represents the kilometer, and they know that meter, liter, and gram all fall under the unit category, they can see that the K is ahead of the U, which means we're going from large to small. The kilometer is larger than the meter. So when we go from large to small, that means we're going to multiply. So right now we're already ready to start setting up our equation. Our equation is going to look like this. Our original number, 4.1, multiplied by something. We know it's either going to be 10, 100, or 1,000. So we're going to count the jumps to see times what. So to get from the K to the U, we're doing 1, 2, 3 jumps. So we're going to have 1, 2, 3 jumps. They might also ask students to express it in an exponent form. So that would be 4.1 times, instead of 1,000, it would be 10. Since there were 1, 2, 3 jumps, it would be to the third power. Now we just plug it in here into our place value chart to solve. So 4.1, since we're multiplying, it's shifting to the left. And since there's 3 as the exponent, or 3 zeros, we're shifting 3 times. 1, 2, 3. The 4 is now here. The 1 is here. Since our decimal is here, we got to fill in those 2 blank spaces with zeros to make sure that our digits do not shift. So our answer is 4,100 meters. This we're going to express in word form. I told students just plug it right in to their place value chart. And when we're writing in word form, which a lot of students confuse with unit form, word form, we are not doing any specific like digit by digit. We're just looking at whole numbers. So I told them to cover up everything behind the decimal. And what number do you see? You see a 68. So go ahead and write down 68. Then they're going to write down the decimal, which is represented with the word and. Now they're going to cover up everything in front of the decimal. And you're left with the number 128. So they're going to write that down. And then they look at that very last digit, which was the 8, and if you look straight up, you'll see that it's in the thousandths place. So they'll finish it off by writing the word thousandths. That's what we're looking for word form. Cover up, state the number, say and for the decimal, cover up, state the number, and then go straight up to see what that last one is. If we're going to express that exact same number in unit form, we're going digit by digit. So our first digit is a 6. And the 6 is in the tens place, so we write tens. Our next digit is 8, and the 8 is in the ones place, so we're going to write ones. Our next digit is 1 in the tenths place, so 1/10. We have a 2 in the hundredths place, so we write 2 hundredths. And we have an 8 in the thousandths place, so we will write 8 thousandths. Whoa, spelled that wrong. I have jet lag still, so you have to forgive me. 6 tens, 8 ones, 1/10, 2 hundredths, 8 thousandths. And here we're going to express the exact same number, but in expanded form. Again, we're going digit by digit. So it would be 6 times, since the 6 is in the tens place, we represent that with the number 10. Plus 8 times, 8 is in the ones place, so we represent it with the number 1, plus the 1 times, since the 1 is in the tenths place, we represent it with the 10th, plus 2 times, since the 2 is in the hundredths place, we represent it with 100th, plus 8 times, since the 8 is in the thousandths place, we represent it with 1/1000. Some students prefer to write it in decimal form, so this front area would be the same. The only thing that would change is this can be represented with a 0.1, a 0.01, or a 0.001. Either one of those would be correct. We're going to look to express this number in standard form. So I told them just plug it right on in. So the whole number here would be the 68. So just as we normally plug in whole numbers, those are the numbers that go in before the decimal. So we're going to go ahead and write 68. And then we're going to look at this fraction right here as what goes behind the decimal. And so that's 128 thousandths. So the 8 thousandths is the last thing that kind of slipped out of my mouth. So I'm going to be sure to put that 8 in the thousandths place. And then just kind of work backwards to make sure I've placed them in the correct spot. So that number in standard form is 68 and 128 thousandths, just written out like that. They might also, for standard form, have them work backwards from expanded and backwards from unit. Okay, we're comparing these two numbers. So again, we put it into our friendly place value chart. So our first number here is easy to plug in because it's in decimal form. But our second one, we're going to really think about what we're looking at here. So we're going to cover up that fraction, and we see the whole number is 4. So that's what goes before the decimal. Then we place our decimal, and we're going to look at what we're placing after the decimal. So we've got 82 thousandths. 82 thousandths, the last thing that came out of my mouth was a 2,000. So I'm going to make sure that that 2 is in the thousandths place. And then I'm going to work backwards. So I'm going to place my 8. And those are the only numbers they gave me. So I'm going to have to be sure to put a 0 here to hold that place value. So now I'm going to compare these two numbers. Whenever we're comparing, we work from left to right. So I can see that these two numbers are the same. So I'm going to move over another column. And now I do see a difference in numbers. I see that the 8 is larger than the 0. So this right here is my bigger number. And our Pac-Man is going to eat that bigger number. And our last review problem was writing this gigantic number and we're rounding it to these different places. So a lot of kids are trying to do this in their head, and I told them please don't, because it can get confusing. So we're going to place it into our place value chart, 286.903. And if we're rounding to the whole number, that always means to the ones place. So they're going to underline the digit in that place value, which is the 6. And the number to the right of it, as I tell the children, determines the destiny of that 6. So the 9, since it's 5 or more, we're going to raise the score. The little rhyme is 4 or less, let it rest, 5 or more, raise the score. We went through a whole explanation in class using the number line and understanding why that little rhyme works so well. But just to make it condensed for you parents, I'm just going to kind of get down to the part that they enjoyed the most, which was this one. So since that 9 is 5 or more, we're going to raise this number to a 7. They know that everything before that rounded number stays the same, and everything behind that rounded number becomes zeros. They also know that if there are zeros behind a decimal, they don't matter. So they can write 287 just as is. Okay, I'm going to kind of squiggle these out so that we don't get confused. We'll write the same number down. This time we're rounding to the tens place, so we're going to underline the 8. And we're going to go look to the right of that, which is the 6. The 6 is 5 or more, so we're going to raise that up to a 9. So you have 2, 9, and then everything behind that rounded number becomes a 0. So we have 0, 0, 0, 0. These zeros don't matter because they're behind the decimal, but since this 0 is in front of it, it matters very much. So we're going to go ahead and write down our answer is 290. I am going to continue on writing the number down, 286. We are rounding to the hundreds place, so I'm going to underline the digit in the hundreds place, which is the 2. looking at the 8, and since that's 5 or more, I'm going to raise that score to a 3, and everything behind it becomes a 0. Again, the zeros behind the decimal don't matter, but the 2 in front of it do. So the answer would be 300. And kind of squiggle those out so we don't get distracted. Actually, I'll shift my paper. Okay. We have 286, 903. And we're rounding to the nearest tenths. So I'm going to underline the 9. Circle the digit to the right. That digit is 4 or less, so we're going to let this rest. It's going to stay as it was, a 9. Again, everything before it stays the same, and everything behind it becomes a 0. So our answer is and our very last one, we'll rewrite this number. We're rounding to the hundredths place, so we're going to underline this. Look to the digit to the right. That digit is 4 or less, so we're going to let this rest. It's going to stay a 0. Everything in front of it stays the same. Everything behind it becomes a 0. So we'll go ahead and write it down. It ends up being the same as the one before. And that is it. If you have any questions, feel free to email me. They have their notes that we've been taking this entire module, and then they have their workbooks. And of course, you can always refer to more detailed videos of each lesson on our website. I am here if you have any questions. Thank you.